It is another Saturday. We'd like to say welcome here to our podcast for today, Saturday. And of course, today is December the 10th. We will soon be looking forward to see Christmas and then the New Year. What a marvelous time to be alive. And we are so glad that you are here joining us today on this Gracious Hope Live podcast. I'm here with Reverend Suah as Deddeh. And today we will be talking about the statement that was released by the United States Ambassador Michael McCarthy, which of course has some weight, and it keeps us guessing what's going to happen or what is going or what do we expect or what we should expect in the future following the 2023 elections. And so it behooves us to look into his statement and to understand or make sense of what he is talking about here and how it affect the government, whether it is the government now or the government that will be in the future following the elections. And so we are talking about this because we strongly believe as Christians, which of course is our foundational consideration of our nation as we look at our preamble. We believe in God as a nation and we love Christ. And of course, most of our officials are Christians or profess to be Christians. And our system, the entire governmental system, not just this administration, but from administration to administration. And even if you look at the genesis or the origin of our conflict, it is all about injustice. um, the resources are not managed well and divided well for the welfare of the people. And therefore, people rise up and rebel. And it's all about one mantra, which is corruption. And so I remember I was a very young child, not a child, but a teen, and heard about corruption. And the reason for a change of government is because of corruption. People die in the process. There was a civil war. And here we are. We're still talking about corruptions. And so today, we want to know the truth behind what the US ambassador is talking about sanction. Okay, sanction was initiated in 1996 by, and it's called what the Magnitsky Act. Okay, and it brings to bear the truth, what it means to have good governance and what it means to have officials accountable and transparent in the public square. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. And as you know, this platform is all about contemporary issues that affect the Christian life of faith. Faith and culture is what we'll talk about here. But we decided to talk about this as part of the podcast because it has a moral value to it. Okay, moral value, the morality of it, holding public officials accountable in the public square, serving the people the way elected by the people. And that is all about democracy. And so, if you look in the Bible, Jesus gives us the idea or the concept of understanding how his followers should work along with government or also be in subject to government. If you look in Matthew chapter 22, starting with verse 15, the Pharisees went away to work out between themselves how to trap Jesus in what he said. And then they sent their disciples to him, and together with the Herodians, that is those who were pro Herod government in Jerusalem and the surrounding areas, to say, Master, that's what they was telling Jesus, Master, we know that you are an honest man and teach the way God in an honest way, and that you are not afraid of anyone because a man's rank means nothing to you. Please tell us your opinion. Is it permissible to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But Jesus was aware of their malice and replied, You hypocrites, why do you set this trap for me? And let me see the money you pay the tax with. So they handed him a denarius, and he said, Whose head is this? Whose name? They replied, Caesar. He then said to them, Very well. Give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and God what belongs to God. So here, the Pharisees were attempting to trap Jesus in what he would say, and the issue is that of rightness or righteousness, or is it right to pay taxes to government? Now, in Palestine, Palestine was under the rule of the Roman Empire. And was it right to pay taxes to this pagan power machine that is the Roman Empire? Now, the question is like those that ask of politicians and church leaders today to try to get them to give simple answers to complex questions. So Jesus throws the question back to the questionnaires, and then he knows, he went on to make them to be aware that he knows the intention is to catch him out, and it was not about engaging him in debate. So Jesus' response is, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and God what belongs to God. Now, Christians cannot cut ourselves, we cannot cut ourselves from the world's affairs, but we should never compromise our beliefs and values, even if we take up office in a public square. Our values and our beliefs should remain ingrained in us so that we can show respect and dignity, not just for the office, but for those who elected us. And so then our decisions and loyalties must be decided by what furthers the common good. And when it comes to the common good here, is why it behooves us to talk about the truth behind the US ambassador's cry for more sanctions. The truth behind it here is that he is crying for more sanctions or looking forward to impose more sanctions. And in his statement, the irony of his statement is that this looming threat to issue more sanctions on Liberian government officials is hinged on the results of the country's upcoming national presidential election next year, according to the ambassador's statement. So then it gives us the question in our mind, well, what is he going to do? Is he going to impose sanction on, maybe if President Weah, the incumbent president, wins? Is he going to impose more sanction, or does he already have a list of people? Or what if the opposition wins? What will he do? Does he have other people that might be part of that government that will be qualified to be on our list of sanctioning? So we don't know. It's a dilemma that we must unravel or unpack here. And so then we'll say welcome to our podcast. And I will bring on Reverend Suah as Deddeh, who has been looking at that statement meticulously to see how best we all can make sense out of it. Reverend Deddeh, it's another
Yeah,
Saturday, and I'm so glad to see you again.
wonderful.
Um, the ambassador, Michael McCarthy, released this statement on the anti-corruption, the International Anti-Corruption Day. It was a perfect occasion, and he released this. And this, of course, statement has a lot of head turning, and the debate continues.
Yeah, I like how you say I've been looking at the statement meticulously. I mean that that is an interesting description right there. But in any case, I know both of us look at the statement and we intend to just give our what we are about to do is our opinions. We are trying to analyze what the ambassador says, and we stand corrected in our analysis. It might be what he intends or what he does not intend. But our role is to look at what the statement says, and then we can just discuss it. But before we come to that, a scripture caught my attention. I'm glad how you laid down the framework for this discussion. Our discussion is primarily based on biblical principles and concepts that inform the physical, and I'm glad how you went to that. I was looking at Exodus 18:21. Exodus 18:21, and it says it's a continuation of the previous verse. It said, "Moreover, look for able men from all the people, able men from all the people, men who fear God." Huh? Able men and men who fear God, who are trustworthy and hate a bribe. I mean, this is the Old Testament. Now we haven't even come to Jesus' teaching in the New Testament yet. And this is the Old Testament. God is laying down a framework to Moses as to who should be in leadership. And it continues. and place such men over the people as chiefs of 10,000, of hundreds, of fifties, and of tens. Now, let's just break this down a little bit and then we go into the ambassador's statement. God gives leadership at different levels. Some of us are in leadership and we are not supposed to be there. That's just the point. And if you are in a position that you have not prepared for, you have not trained for, and you don't know what to do, you're going to blunder. And once you find yourself in that position and you know you're not qualified for it, you're going to do everything to keep yourself in that position by doing things that are not comely, things are not acceptable. You start to break norms and the rest of that. So this scriptures in Exodus 18:21 kind of lifts the veil of our eyes to see what is leadership and who should be in leadership. Trustworthy people, people who fear God. If you don't fear God, at least, and you find yourself in leadership, you can be tempted to do things that are against God's will, and you will not flinch because you want to do it either for your personal aggrandizement or to satisfy people. That is aside. Let's come now to the ambassador's statement. From my observation, I see this statement from different levels, and I will try to analyze it based on what I see, and you can have your take on it. You can have your take on it. Now, first and foremost, I think the ambassador is sending a message to us, a clear message to us meaning Liberians. Now, the first observation that I see, at least in the statement, is that the ambassador issued the statement on no other day than on International Anti-Corruption Day. So what's the message in there? Corruption is an international phenomenon that is established. Even the ambassador himself said, even in America, there is corruption, but you have mechanisms, you have rules, you have policies that try to arrest corruption in the American system. That's why people are arrested and taken to court. So in that statement, I see he's saying that corruption is an international phenomenon, as he mentioned more than that. And the second thing I see is that the role, Liberia's role, is devastatingly pronounced. When I say role, the corrupt practices in Liberia, it is devastating. So the ambassador uses international anti-corruption day to lift this message so that it sounds volume to those who are listening, it rings bell to those who are listening, and that it claims the attention of those who are listening, because anti-corruption day is an international observance to bring attention to the corrupt practices of governments around the world. So what the ambassador is saying, he's raising this issue so that something must be done to effectively deal with this economic, social, political, and even spiritual cancer we have in our society. I mean, corruption. Corruption has an economic effect, it has a social effect, it has a political effect, and it has a spiritual effect, as we just talked about that just from the scripture. So what should we do? We should begin to pay attention to that. And for what I see from the ambassador's statement, at least, the American government will not stop at anything but to flex its muscles in whatever way possible to keep drawing attention to this virus, this cancerous virus of corruption at every level of the way, and to confront the virus by dealing with people who are conspicuous perpetrators of corruption in broad daylight. That's what I see the first observation in the statement. No, I don't know your take on that. If you want me to continue, I can continue, but let me see what you have to say, then I go to my second observation.
Yeah, that is a very good observation, and that is why the ambassador, in his statement here, he's encouraging the government in its budget to allocate sufficient funds or all of the resources that all of the institutions that are responsible for integrity, transparency, and also accountability to receive all the support that they need. And he has observed, according to him, from what I see here, that government has been, the momentum has been shifted from uh, from institutions that serve as integrity institutions. The momentum shift from there. That is, they tend to support those institutions less and less. So, and so he said here that over the past decade, momentum shifted, and as Liberian leaders gave less political and financial support to the nation's vital integrity institutions, the economy slowed, corruption increased, and international businesses began to look elsewhere for investment opportunities. So he looked at these trends, they are all related, and he also added here that there is a direct correlation between the health of Liberia's integrity institutions and the health of the Liberian economy. So when we look at our integrity institutions, we look at like what Minister of Finance, the LAC, Liberia Anti-Corruption, LAC, and some others, that are responsible. You can look at the judiciary system. It's an institution of integrity because they, in the judicial branch of government, they have to uphold the law and make sure that the law is dispensed appropriately. And so if they are not receiving that pay, and judges wanted to go on strike. I heard they wanted to go on strike because they were not receiving pay. But that is not good for a country that is as old as our country, our republic. And that is the point that he's also making here. And he is, in fact, calling on most of the institutions in government here. And he made it very clear: no prosperity without integrity. Integrity, it is a matter of knowing the absolute truth of doing what you're supposed to do, making sure that you're taking care of responsibility and do it in a way that will certify your roles and your duties and your responsibilities outlined in your office as a whole, or what you are given to do. And so here he says, no prosperity without integrity. So here he's calling on all agencies that are involved, the General Auditing Commission, the Financial Intelligence Agency, the Public Procurement and Concessions Commission, and the Liberia Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. I think those who dig the diamond or the oil resources for our country, and also Internal Audit Agency. So these are agencies he believes that if they are given the full capacity and those who are serving serve with integrity, yes, Liberia will be balanced in its checks and balances when it comes to not just the three branches of government alone, but those inner workings within the government of each branch, that intra connection between professionals will strengthen the capacity of our democracy. And so this is a watershed moment for each of us. If you're Liberian and you know that there's another foreign country that loves you and wanting to straighten out things, I think we all should pretty much put our hands around what is valuable, because what he's talking, they all speak to who we are as a people and our conflict. If you look at the nexus of our conflict today, it is all because people are corrupt. That is, they take something that does not belong to them, public covers. And it is something that we have been crying over and over with new government coming and going, the same old, same old. So it's like a syndrome, may I say.
Oh yes, yes indeed. In fact, at least from where I sit, because I'm sitting, I almost say from where I stand, where I'm sitting. So I will say from where I sit. All institutions should be integrity institutions: the executive, the legislative, the judiciary. Every branch of these three branches of government or agencies of these branches of government should be integrity institutions, because they play various roles at various levels, interacting with the citizenry and foreigners as well in different places, so that what they do, their actions speak volume. So
Mhm.
each of them should be integrity institution, not just one. The police, the army. In the past, I am army. I would say a child of the army. My dad was in the army. and we saw corruption in the army as well. When I was growing up, corruption in the police force, civil society corruption. So all these institutions should be mentioned as integrity institution. But you recall, Alex, and those who listening may also recall, 9 months ago, in a speech, Ambassador McCarthy lobbed a soul-searching grenade. That's how I describe it. A soul-searching grenade when he asked the mind-boggling question, what would J.J. Roberts have to say about Liberia today? For me, that question is loaded with a lot of perspectives that Liberia should begin to draw from that question. This does not mean J.J. Roberts was perfect, but what will he say about today's Liberia after all the struggle towards independence? You know, for those who don't know who J.J. Roberts was, for our friends in the international community who don't know who J.J. Roberts was, Joseph Jenkins Roberts served as Liberia's first president. And then he was born March 15 and died in 1908. March 15, 1809, and died February 24th, 1876. You know, J.J. Roberts was an African American merchant who immigrated to Liberia in 1829. Just to know who he was, why would ambassador make reference to what would J.J. Roberts think about today's Liberia? So J.J. Roberts was an African American merchant who immigrated to Liberia in 1829, where he became a politician. He was elected first president after independence on January 1st, 1848, up to January 7th. And then he became the 7th president, elected January 1st, 1872, up to January 3rd, 1876. So he played his role, he paid his due as to the onset and the working of the political system in Liberia, which was not perfect, up to the time he left office. So the ambassador, going back to J.J. Roberts, referring to J.J. Roberts, what would he think about today's Liberia, should sound a caution to all of us Liberians who love our country. So let's fast forward to the current statement by the ambassador. What is he saying? I see 3 steps, or I see a tripartite approach by the ambassador. Tripartite means 3 parties approach to his statement. And I'll try to break down those three parties to his statement so that we begin to dissect what his intention is. We don't know his intention, at least, but we're trying to read into his statement and see who is he talking to, and for what reason. What does he want to achieve? We know what he wants to achieve already, is to nip corruption in the bud. But can we really eradicate corruption? Maybe yes, maybe no. But let's look at the 3 parties that I think the ambassador is speaking to in this statement. The first group is the civil society group. That's a 3-pronged approach I said the ambassador is approaching. Because he said after elections, if Liberians elected those who have been sanctioned, then the American government might continue the sanctioning of corrupt government officials. So what is he talking about? So I think, first of all, he's speaking to the civil society. He's referring to the civil society's role in making sure the government feet is always at the fire. And he's also referring to what? The electorates, and then the government itself. So let's break those three parties down, Ellis, and then we can move ahead. Now, what is civil society role? Civil society's organization play meaningful and multiple roles, Ellis. They are an important source of information for both citizens and government. If you have a vibrant civil society, you and I were in the civil society where we work in the press in our various roles, and when I serve the president, that's civil society. Civil society has that pivotal role to play. If civil society is quiet when things are happening, it's going to reverberate in the society, it can either affect the society negatively or positively. So the first point in the ambassador's statement is to civil society, get up, because your
Yeah.
role is to monitor government policies and actions and hold government accountable to ensure and enhance good governance. That is the role of civil society. I believe in his statement, the ambassador is speaking to civil society to get engaged in advocacy and offer alternative policies for government to look at in order to make amends and improve the society.
Yeah.
The second group, like I said, is the electorates. Each of us are empowered by the Constitution to exercise our political franchise, to vote. Now,
Yeah.
if we not care for the vote, Alex, and that's what the ambassador is saying, if we voted for those who have been sanctioned or those who are corrupt actors in our political landscape, and we ignore those perpetrators of endemic corruption and voted for them, we are
Yeah.
sending a bad message, Alex, to the international community, because they will then see that the electorates are exercising their franchise, but not in the right direction, because they're electing people who are already corrupt and putting them back into office to be more corrupt.
Yeah.
Now, the last group, Alex, and I think the government is talking, I mean, the US ambassador is talking to, is the government itself. As you read in that statement, government already has laws in place, policies in place to deal with corruption. And if the government means well, Alice, the government can put those policies and regulations and law into effect to deal with the issue of corruption. But until that happens, the ambassador is saying the role that Liberians must play, we must play for our own selves and posterity. At least that's my second observation of the ambassador's statement.
Yeah, that is a very good point that you're making right there. And just before I add on here, for those of you who are just joining us, we would like to say welcome. This is the Gracious Hope Live Podcast, and we are here every Saturday at 9 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. Central Time, and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And so share our link with your friends, your relatives, and so that they can be a part of this. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Please, we'll be right back. All right, so we are back here after that brief break, and we are talking about the current statement released by the U.S. Ambassador to Liberia, Michael McCarthy. He is saying that there will be more sanctions coming depending on the elections that will take place next year, the outcome of that. But we don't know because it leaves us in a dilemma as to how that sanction will be carried out. Is there a list already that the ambassador is looking at to release? But we see that sanction is a deterrent, is there to deter people from taking public funds or manipulating the system for their own advantage or toward their own interest, and doing everything possible to undermine the growth of the country. So sanction is imposed on these individuals from an outside um, law, or yeah, it's a law. The Magnitsky, the GLOMAC is an international law. It's being imposed from the outside on our officials. But you see, there was a speaker recently who said it is a shame for a foreign country. It takes a foreign country to whip our government officials into submission and disgrace them publicly, putting a name out there. It's a disgrace for our country, a country that is so old. I think it was Samuel Kofi who said that recently at the Aja Convention. And we have seen this over and over and over, because corruption is a moral issue. And if we see anything that is going on wrong, like Reverend Suah was saying, you the citizen. I mean, it's a civic duty. It's a civic duty to you to vote and also to speak up, to say what you have to say, and be wise enough to understand that those who tend to undermine the country, why should they be elected to office? So um, the ambassador here says in his statement that is released, he says that it takes Liberians, okay, to do what is right for growth. For example, even if they impose a sanction on government officials, I mean, there's nothing else besides that. Okay, it is done internationally, but then locally, on the local level, the individuals, all those that are sanctioned, they still survive, they still live, they still carry on normal, function. And so, is there any kind of effect or negative impact on these people when they are not tried in court or to roll out the justice system to investigate to find out? So for me, from what I see so far, even with the latest names that were released, the three officials that were picked up from this administration, there was no other further action, no other further legal action to investigate to know what the ambassador was saying, that these people, they violated certain acts or they were involved in corruption, even though they deny those that were accused, they accused deny, but up to now there's nothing came out of it. So then Liberians now see this first president, set up in a way where, yes, these people, the American said that we don't want to do business with them because they are corrupt, they undermine the growth of the country. But then what next after that? Nothing is done. So even if another list comes up next year after the election, what's going to come up again? So then it shows here that some of these officials, they are all grown, or they are numb to disgrace. They can be disgraced, that name can be on sanction, they can call them corrupt people, but they enjoy the company of the common people, the people that they help, they support, and you want to elect them to office again. Now, this is what is so bewildering to the ambassador, and that's what he says is left with Liberians themselves to open their eyes, to be wise enough to see that if certain individuals who are undermining the welfare of the country, why re-elect them? Why put them in office? Why? You have the vote, you have the power. It is a Liberian court that has the power to adjudicate any case that is brought against any corrupt official. So it's not the Americans. That's what he's saying here. It's Liberian law. So Liberians generally agree with the American people, the American ambassador analysis that corruption is the primary cause of Liberia's failure to thrive. Most in the international community share assessment. And so that is why the Department of the Treasury in the United States took that extraordinary step of sanctioning five senior Liberian officials in only 3 years under this new act, the Global Magnitsky Act. And so the set of sanctions that were imposed has led to some positive results, according to them, including the resignation of these three most recently sanctioned officials. Okay, they resigned a little job, but is that going to be the standard or the example that whenever someone is sanctioned, they should resign? What if you're a senator or a representative and you are elected by the people? So there's a lot of nuances involved in this whole sanctioning and the aftermath of the sanctioning that I believe the government should look into as well. Reverend Deddeh.
Yes, certainly, Alice. You just helping to move to another point in the ambassador's comment. The due process, and the ambassador himself mentions that in his statement. Let me read that, and then I can comment. He says, "Global Magnitsky or GLOMAC sanctions are deservingly a hot topic in Liberia. Some Liberians have urged the United States to implement more sanctions and even proposed names. Others have objected that the sanctions process lacks due process. The sanctions process lacks due process. This is a serious observation by the ambassador. That's what people are saying. Now he said, let me be clear, I'm quoting the ambassador now. GLOMAC is a tool that the United States uses to protect itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a serious point. The United States uses GLOMAC to protect itself from particularly corrupt actors, not a punishment against a country or government.
Mm-hmm.
Now he separate the perpetrators from the people, from the government. Again, this is a tripartite approach to what the ambassador is trying to do. So he's not saying the Manesky Act is against the people of Liberia or against the government, but rather against individuals who perpetrate corruption and other malpractices that the U.S. is trying to kick against. Now, where is due process? Yes, these people have resigned, and the two of them, two others are still senators, Brother Ellis. One is senator for Nima, and the other one is for Greg Kipman. They are senators. And then you have two government officials who have resigned. Now, senators may not be tried while they are sitting, but what about the three government officials who have resigned? Now, with this thing hanging in the air, Alex, and these people have not faced due process. So whether it's true or false, the dark clouds hangs above them.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself, for those people who have resigned, some are saying it is not fair, and the ambassador mentions that. So in all fairness, there should be due process of those who have been accused by the Manesky Act through the courts, so that the peers can sit on a jury and decide whether or not they acted against the society by the corrupt practices that have been accused of. Due process, at least, should suffice. That is very important, and I'm glad you raised that. The second thing I want to raise, it comes from an ambassador or a comment, and I'll read that before I comment on that. So I don't want to comment on that in a vacuum. It says, and I quote, as the global Manesky sanctions of 3 Liberian officials in August demonstrated, the U.S. government can and will employ sanctions. Get that? The U.S. government can and will employ sanctions as needed on an ongoing basis. So, Alex, we are in for more sanctions to come. We don't know who's next to come. And then he says, in support of our shared development, democracy, and security goals guided by the U.S. strategy on countering corruption. So all of this is the U.S. strategy on countering corruption. But let me read the last part, and then I'll comment, Ellis. The all-important goal of transparent, free, credible, and peaceful elections in October will be one important factor. I mean, maybe the government has other factors, but the October election will be one important factor in decisions about additional sanctions in the months leading up to the vote. So the ambassador is sending a coded message, Ellis, from 3 levels. Civil society, wake up. Government, implement the rules you have in your books to fight corruption. Electors, open your eyes. But Ellis, let me ask you this question, and you can comment on that. How many members of the electors understand what Manesky is? I don't think so. So that it behooves the media to break down what this whole thing is about, so that those who will have to vote will understand clearly, what this thing is about. And it's not against the Liberians or against the government, but it's against those people who are breaking the law, accepting bribes. So we have a role to play. When I say we, the media, I'm still part of the media to a large extent, to break it down for the common people, the market men and women, to understand what this thing is and how it adversely affects our posterity. That is.
Yes, and it is very important that the electorate understand this whole thing, because someone asked me why is it that they did not impose sanction on other officials during the Ellen Johnson administration. Remember, the Global Magnitsky Act came in play after President Johnson's administration. That's why. And so let us just make that clear. So that act, it was enacted afterwards. And so that is why it is important, according to Pastor Deddeh, that people understand, people are be made aware of what the act is all about. It's not against the Liberian people, but is against targeted people who are doing everything to undermine the development of the country, because it does not just um, stifle growth, it also kill the moral standing of our country, and even the moral authority of our constitution, our laws on the books. And these three branches of governments that we have, the executive, the legislative branch, as well as the judiciary, they must function, you know, independently, and also function in the interest of the people. And that is why the ambassador is calling that funding and resources be shared properly, and those that are responsible in those integrity institutions, that are responsible for accountability, like the audit and the finance and other agencies that are involved, those who are handling those positions, they too have a duty. And the reason is that they are citizens as well, and most of them, they are Christians, they are professed Christians, they believe in their faith, they have values and principles that they live by. Professing one thing is different from actually doing what you profess. And that is why some of the Muslim friends that I have, they ask me this question. Christians been leading all along, but look at the country. But again, I'm not sure whether that is a fair question, because we have other people from other faiths also working within the government apparatus as well. But then the argument is that because they are in minority, so they don't have the upper hand. But I believe that that kind of a argument or position uh, does not square well if we're all talking about unity to work together, so that the three branches of government can be more effective and efficient, and so that corruption can be significantly reduced for a better country. Reverend Dede.
Yes, certainly. And we also have a role on this platform to to go a little bit into Magnitsky Act. At least you mentioned it a little bit. The Magnitsky Act had a very long formal name, and so maybe some people still remember the act by that formal name. And I'll just go over it for the sake of information, so people can be well informed that Magnitsky Act was that formal name. And so let me just read what I have here, based on the research I just did. The Magnitsky Act, formerly known as the Russia and Moldova Jackson Dutch Venice Repeal and Sergei Magnitsky Rule of Law Accountability. That's a long name, you know.
Hmm.
And it was first instituted. I mean, it was published, enacted, I think December 2012. And it was a bipartisan bill passed by the U.S. Congress. Now, what is important to know, that it was passed by the 112th United States Congress. It was named after Sergei Magnitsky, who was, let's say, brutally killed by the Russian, according to information. Yeah, we're
Hmm.
quoting information now. And so the U.S. government named that act in his name to deal with evil people in government and everywhere on the face of this earth, to make them account for their act. It could be injustice, it could be corruption, it could be anything. So that's a little foundation and background of the Magnitsky Act. It had this long name, and it was reduced to Magnitsky Act. And I'm glad at least the name was reduced, because this was a very long name.
Yeah, but correct me on that. When was that act enacted? Was it in 2006?
No, it was December 14, 2012. December 14, 2012.
2012. Okay, so
Yes,
I
yeah,
aired earlier. I said
yeah,
86, but that was
yeah,
96.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so that was
It was originally
2012. Okay, so
published.
that was after the Salif administration. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that was the appropriate time. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So then ultimately, we don't know the names of those that are on the list, the upcoming list that might be released based on where the election will turn out to be. That is the 2023 elections. And this, of course, has a lot of Liberians debating in every way. But what is the ambassador is talking about? The US Ambassador Michael McCarthy is talking about. He is saying that the election will determine, okay, what the US will do regarding sanctions. And my inclination is that he is looking at individuals who have already been accused taking office in government administration, in another government administration. Maybe they will add on more harsh um, sanctions, or they'll make the sanctions more harder, or maybe they may add certain things to deter them from taking our office. But I don't know. But so that's a dilemma that we all look forward to see, even if President Weah wins, or if the opposition wins, who's going to be sanctioned, or is he going to sanction certain individual if the opposition wins, or will he sanction people who are already in this government, even if President Weah wins? We don't know, but I believe there is a time bump ahead, and there are people he already knows. The ambassador knows who are actually, you know, um, on our list. He knows.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you again. And somebody asked a question the other day, and I think I want to just respond to that since we reaching a larger audience right now, so people understand why this my next art has to do with Liberia, or with the Liberian government officials, or with the Liberian government, one way or the other. And so I don't want to just give you a blanketed response to that. I want to look at what is written so that I can give it to you as it is, to be so that you can be informed about why this whole Manesky Act we're talking about, the government and the rest of that. Now, the Global Manesky Act of 2016, after the 12th, the one of 2016, authorizes the U.S. government to sanction foreign government officials. Again, the Global Manesky Act authorizes the U.S. government to sanction foreign government officials, not foreign government officials worldwide who are deemed to be human rights offenders,
Mhm.
freeze their assets, and ban them from entering the United States. That's the first leg of the Manesky Act. Call all those who are stealing because it's against human rights. They call them human rights offenders. Corruption is an offense against the people who need the money for the survival and for infrastructural development of the country. So that's why it is offensive to the common people. Secondly, this act empowers the U.S. government to freeze the resources or the assets of those who have been caught under this act. So this is a big deal, Alex. I mean,
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
this is a big. I don't know what's going to happen to the city government officials if they have access outside the country. What's going to happen to their assets, Alex? And we have not heard that yet. So maybe that is the next step. I don't know. You don't know. Let me read the last one, Ellis, and then we can go ahead. We'll soon be closing. I see we run out of time. The Global Manesky Act sanctions programs represents the implementation of multiple legal authorities. Some of these authorities are in the form of an executive order issued by the president. Anyway, this one, let me not bog you down with this one. This one is purely for the United States. But let's not forget, Ellis, something is in the pipeline.
Yeah.
I don't know, but something is in the pipeline. We shouldn't. Maybe it might not even reach elections time. If it is pronounced and it is serious, the U.S. government might act. We stay corrected. This is just an analysis on our part. Don't say we said it and it didn't happen. We just read it into the ambassador's statement. What is our fault? He said,
Yes.
from time to time, you know, that's a serious thing. That's a very serious thing, Ellis.
It is. It is. It is because it is a matter of getting our acts together. The Americans cannot do it for us. They will send the aid. They will give us all the tools and all the mechanisms in between for us to be successful. Because if we are successful, then they are a show of that security. And remember, the ultimate aim of the United States. Helping and doing everything for our country to have a stable government is for their own security, because they know what happened on 9/11. They know how the world is unstable right now, hatred and every kind of betrayal. You think about country going against countries. We know the Ukraine war, and there are some other spots here and there in Africa still unstable. So the United States wants to be at Somalia and other places. So the United States wants to secure itself because it is also in its interest if our region, the West African region, is stable. In Liberia, we have this connection with the United States based on our history, and we should be somewhere way farther in our development for our infrastructure, our roads, a stable drinking water, electricity, a stable market, and a lot of other things, good health system, education system, and you can just name a whole lot of things that we should be doing by now as Liberians. As we look across the region, we see Ghana, we see other countries who are that are moving ahead when it comes to that infrastructure, that roads, that political system is not perfect, but at least corruption is reduced to the point where the system can function and there's accountability and transparency. And that is what I believe the ambassador talking about. Because the ambassador, his background, if you look at his history, he has worked in other African countries before, where he said he sees even in the village, people come together in the morning to get the village clean, swept well and everything, and he sees that sense of unity. So Africans can make it. Africans can make it. They can do it. We can do it. It's just that, according to Ambassador Nathaniel Barnes, that spark that we are missing. Maybe somebody will come and turn on that spark. Then we'll come to ourselves, and then maybe we'll start working together as one people. And so, with all the hatred, envy, and all the political campaign going on, name calling, labeling, and all of those things are not befitting for people who profess to be followers of Christ. As we can see, most of our government officials, they are part of a church in our country, but then when it comes to how we match up our values and our beliefs in our duties and responsibility to the public, it is something that I believe that we got to take a hard look once again, and not allow ourselves to be disgraced by a foreign country or our partners like the United States telling us to be subjected to our own moral values we profess in our own constitution. Reverend Dede.
Yes, certainly. I see that somebody wants us to help them understand what does uh, the death of a Russian has to do with America bringing this Magnitsky Act into being. Now, the best I can do is to look at what research I just gathered, because we'll soon be closing. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. What research I've gathered, and then you can continue from there. I mean, do your own research, but let's give you what we have, what Alex and I have for your information. Again, the Magnitsky Act, formerly known as the Russia and Moldova Jackson Venice Repeal and Sergei Magnitsky Rule of Law Accountability Act of 2012, is a bipartisan bill passed by the U.S. Congress, not the U.S. 112 Congress, and signed into law by President Barack Obama December 14, 2012, intending, now this is the main reason for this act, intending to punish Russian officials responsible for the death of Russian tax lawyer Sergei Magnitsky in a Moscow prison in 2009, and also to grant permanent normal trade relations status to Russia. In other words, this act was passed to punish Russian officials who killed this tax lawyer in a Moscow prison. So they want to use the same act to deal with officials of government who are perpetrators of high class corruption and bribery scheme and the rest of that, so that they can also know that the U.S. is watching their actions and their deeds. And this is Public Order Law 112-208. We give you all the information you need. You can continue your research on that to inform yourself. Now, last but not the least, the act was introduced into the House in July. I mean, the House of Congress, United States Congress, on July 19, 2012. That was where it was first introduced, and then it was passed, and then President Obama signed it on December 14, 2012. So this is what we have right now, and the Senate also sanctioned that on December 6, 2012. So that's what we have based on our little research on the Manesky Act. At least I know we will far well close to time. So you can take it from there now.
Yes. So let me read this. What this viewer said. He said, "Go back and read his letter. That is the ambassador's letter. That is from Nancy Jordan. That the law is only a interest. Is only the interest of America, and not to get involved in any country's political affairs, including their elections. So you guys need to say the right thing and not how you feel. No, we are not saying how we feel. We are looking at facts. We read a letter and we are analyzing and giving you exactly what the ambassador is saying. That's what we're saying. We are not here to put anybody down. We are here to speak on these moral issues. Okay, it has to do with values and how we can put into practice what we espouse to be as believers in Christ. Okay, that's our platform here. It's a Christian-based platform, and whenever there is any moral issues raised, we talk about them. And in this case, the ambassador of the United States assigned to Liberia is saying that it is time for you, the citizen, to wake up and not elect people that will undermine the interests of the public. And that's what he's saying here. So when it comes to corruption that we all been talking about from regime change to regime change, there's the same thing going on over and over. He wants that to stop. He's helping us. And the United States has spent millions and millions of dollars to build the institution so that it can uh, uh, um, uh, have integrity in every way. And we have seen over the years, okay, the same thing over and over. So we are not only expressing how we feel, but we are expressing what we see that is going wrong. And I believe you should join us to hold public officials accountable and those that are responsible. And it's not all public officials bad. Don't get us wrong. We didn't say that. But we know that those that are sanctioned and those that will be sanctioned later on are people that were targeted, investigated, and he's saying these are people that are undermining your country. They don't want you to grow. They don't want your economy to grow. They don't want for foreign investment to come in. And so what can you do? Why hold them in the office? They got a lot of other Liberians who are willing to serve with integrity. And that's all we are talking about here. And I hope you understand from our perspective here. Okay,
But
that's
Alex,
how it
let
is.
me let me add to that before you leave, because it's very important that I'm
Yes.
glad you addressed that, and because we read it, we read that particular part of the ambassador's statement for the same reason, because we knew people would start thinking our analysis is to say things that are not in the statement. We read, and I'll read it again. The ambassador said, "Let me be clear. Globe mark is a tool the United States uses to protect itself." And I mentioned that, I think I emphasized that, from particularly corrupt actors, not a punishment against a country or government. It is also in no way a substitute for a domestic judicial process in the host country, including prosecution. So we mentioned that, we stated that because we want to make sure we are clear about the ambassador statement in our analysis. So Ellis, thank you for making that clarity and reading that person's statement for balance and fairness. Thank you very much.
All right. So that's how we leave you for today, this weekend, Saturday, December the 10th, 2022. Gracious Hope Live podcast. We talk about contemporary issues that affect our lives in every way for every Christian in our country. And our sole aim is to preserve and promote our Christian heritage. And so that's why we gather here every Saturday to talk about these matters that are so germane to the growth of our country and to bring unity among ourselves so that we can look at our first love, Jesus Christ, as the author and finisher of our faith, putting our faith into practice, into action through our responsibilities in the public square is so significant in all that we say we believe. And therefore, to express our values and beliefs, yes, we discuss them when they arise. And that is why we have this program. So please share our link with your friends, your families, and your loved ones so that they can be a part of this program as well. Thank you for listening. And we will be back here next week, right? Next week, Saturday, Reverend Deddeh?
Yes, that's just started by God's grace. Yeah.
Yes, by God's grace, we'll be back here. Until then, we'll say have a nice weekend
God
and
bless.
bye for
God
now.
bless you.